All right, so it looks like the Hall of Fame race baiters have joined up and combined forces. Once again, you got Jemele Hill and Cari Champion and a bunch of these people who are jealous. They've been bitter ever since they've been fired from ESPN and all of this stuff. It's pretty crazy. Now they are on the attack. They are going after none other than Stephen A. Smith, who's the face of ESPN. Looks like they're trying to slide Pat McAfee in that spot potentially, but Stephen A. Smith, a longtime face of ESPN, is under major attack from, a bunch of bitter people.
The controversy surrounding Stephen A. Smith continues to gain attention as several former ESPN personalities, including Jemele Hill, Cari Champion, and Michelle Beadle, have either criticized him or been connected to ongoing discussions about his influence in sports media. According to the source commentary, the growing backlash against Smith is not simply about one disagreement or one controversial statement. Instead, the speaker argues that a combination of professional frustration, personal disagreements, ideological differences, and resentment over Smith's continued success may be fueling the criticism. Stephen A. Smith has spent years building himself into one of the most recognizable personalities in sports media. As one of ESPN's biggest stars, he has maintained a major presence across television, radio, podcasts, interviews, and social media. His influence has continued to expand, making him one of the most visible figures connected to ESPN. Because of that level of success, the source argues that Smith has become an easy target for criticism from people who disagree with his opinions or may have personal and professional issues with him. The situation received even more attention after Stephen A. Smith was given a thumbs-down award by the NABJ. While the source does not focus heavily on the political aspects surrounding that decision, it presents the award as another example of the criticism currently being directed toward Smith. The speaker then shifts the conversation toward the reactions of other media personalities and questions whether some of the criticism is motivated by deeper frustrations rather than Smith's actions alone. One of the biggest names mentioned in the discussion is Jemele Hill. According to the commentary, Hill's criticism of Stephen A. Smith is connected to disagreements involving race, politics, and the way Smith approaches public issues. The source claims that Hill believes Smith is willing to strongly criticize black people, but does not always direct the same level of criticism toward white public figures or political figures. However, the speaker strongly disagrees with this perspective and argues that Hill often views controversies through the lens of race. The commentary repeatedly suggests that the disagreement between Hill and Smith represents a larger ideological divide. From the speaker's point of view, Hill and Stephen A. Smith no longer approach social and political issues in the same way. The source argues that this difference may be one of the reasons why Hill has become increasingly critical of Smith. At the same time, these interpretations represent the opinions and arguments made in the source rather than independently established facts. Michelle Beadle is another former ESPN personality discussing connection with Stephen A. Smith. According to the commentary, her issues with Smith may be more personal. The source refers to comments Smith made years ago regarding the Ray Rice controversy and suggests that Beadle may still strongly disagree with his position. The speaker argues that this disagreement has lasted for many years and may continue to influence the way Beadle views Smith.
Been fired, and there could be some jealousy involved. Casey from Behind the Lines broke that down. I want to get into all of it. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit the bell notification, hype the video. That would be greatly appreciated. Now, Stephen A. Smith was given the thumbs down award by the NABJ, and it says, it said. This is like some political stuff, and I'm not really into all of that. But I want to get into what KC had to say, because he explained how the jealousy, it's one thing for him to be getting the thumbs down from the NABJ or whatever. Jemele Hill and the Cari Champions and a bunch of these people were chiming in. They're chiming in because they're jealous and they're still mad that they got fired. Check this out.
So why is the trio of...
The discussion also connects Beadle's relationship with Smith to professional competition. The source suggests that there has been frustration surrounding Stephen A. Smith taking over positions previously held by other media personalities, including his role at SiriusXM. The commentary argues that when networks decide to replace a host or personality, the decision is often based on business considerations and audience demand. From that perspective, the speaker believes that Smith should not necessarily be blamed for another personality losing an opportunity. Cari Champion is also included in the broader discussion. The source speculates that Champion may have been disappointed that Stephen A. Smith did not intervene to help protect a position during changes at ESPN. According to the commentary, some former ESPN personalities may have believed that Smith's influence within the company could have helped them keep their jobs. The speaker argues that disappointment over losing those positions could have created long-lasting resentment toward Smith. However, it is important to note that the claims about personal jealousy, resentment, or anger are largely presented as speculation and commentary. The source repeatedly interprets the motivations of Hill, Champion, and Beadle through perspective of professional frustration. It does not establish those motivations as proven facts. Instead, the speaker argues that their criticism of Stephen A. Smith should be viewed in the context of their previous relationships with ESPN and their careers after leaving the network. A major part of the discussion focuses on the difficult transition from mainstream television to independent digital media. The source argues that working at a major network such as ESPN provides personalities with a built-in audience, production teams, writers, directors, and other resources. Once a personality leaves that environment and begins working independently on platforms like YouTube, the situation becomes completely different. According to the commentary, independent creators must earn their audience every day. They cannot simply rely on the reputation they built while working for a major television network. They must create content consistently, understand what their audience wants to watch, compete against thousands of other creators, and continue producing videos even when growth is slow. The source uses the struggles of former mainstream media personalities on YouTube to argue that popularity on television does not automatically guarantee success online. The commentary specifically discusses the online projects involving Jemele Hill and Cari Champion, and argues that their transition into independent media has not produced the same level of attention they experienced while working at ESPN. The speaker compares their audience numbers with other independent creators and uses those comparisons to support the argument that mainstream recognition and digital success are two very different things. The source repeatedly emphasizes that independent content creation is a non-stop process. Unlike traditional television, there is no guaranteed audience waiting for a creator's next appearance. Online personalities have to build loyalty, develop a recognizable style, and constantly compete for attention. The speaker argues that this requires consistency, discipline, and an obsession with improving and producing content.
Smelly Jemele, Cari the Champion of Failure, and Trishelle Beadle. Why are the ladies hating on Stephen A. Smith? Why are the ladies allergic to his masculinity? Well, according to Jemele Hill, my brother has lost his way. He has stepped away from the woke faith. He has no problem attacking and criticizing black people, but he doesn't have that same energy with the white man, and he damn sure doesn't have that same energy with Orange Man. Bah! Imagine my surprise. Just imagine.
From the speaker's perspective, this difference between mainstream media and independent media may help explain why some former television personalities struggle after leaving major networks. The source argues that television personalities often benefit from the power of the network itself, while independent creators must rely much more heavily on their own ability to attract and retain viewers. The commentary then returns to Stephen A. Smith and his continued success. Despite the criticism surrounding him, Smith remains one of the most visible voices in sports media. His presence across multiple platforms has continued to grow, and the speaker believes that this level of success may be difficult for some of his former colleagues to ignore. The source openly acknowledges that Stephen A. Smith is not perfect, and that people are free to disagree with his opinions. The speaker even states that he does not agree with everything Smith says or does. However, the main argument is that criticism of Smith should also be examined in the context of his extraordinary success compared with the struggles of some former colleagues who are now attempting to build independent careers. According to the source, there may be a combination of personal disagreements and professional jealousy involved in the controversy. The speaker believes that some personalities may be frustrated by their own career struggles while watching Smith continue to expand his influence. Whether or not that interpretation is correct, the source presents it as a major reason behind the growing tension surrounding
my surprise when I found out the basis of Jemele Hill's criticism of Stephen A. Smith is based 100% on race.
Of course, everything with her is about race. Everything. She can't help it.
Since she was fired by ESPN for her unhealthy obsession with mythical racism, Jemele Hill has doubled down and attempted to build a career on manufactured racism. Now, you would think she would do the complete opposite. With the business of mythical racism being bankrupt, you would...
Smith. The commentary argues that instead of focusing entirely on Stephen A. Smith, his critics should also examine why their own content and media projects may not be connecting with audiences. The speaker suggests that audience response ultimately plays a major role in determining who succeeds in modern media. If viewers are not interested in a personality or a particular type of content, professional connections and previous success may not be enough to guarantee continued popularity. As the discussion comes to an end, the speaker maintains that Stephen A. Smith's success speaks for itself. While his opinions continue to create controversy and attract criticism, he remains highly visible and influential. At the same time, several former ESPN personalities continue to pursue careers outside the network, often facing the difficult challenge of building audiences independently. Ultimately, the central question raised by the source is whether the criticism directed at Stephen A. Smith is entirely based on legitimate disagreements with his opinions and actions, or whether personal history, career competition, disappointment, and possible resentment are also contributing factors. The answer may be different depending on who is asked, but the controversy highlights the complicated relationships that can develop when former colleagues take different paths after leaving the same major media organization. For now, Stephen A. Smith remains at the center of the conversation. His continued success, combined with criticism from former colleagues and industry figures, ensures that the debate will likely continue, whether viewers agree with him or strongly oppose him. Smith's influence in sports media remains undeniable, and the ongoing conflict shows just how competitive and personal the world of modern sports media can become.